Hi there. Okay, so for our next lesson, we're going to go back to the topic of anchor text API calls. This time we're going to look at Moz's anchor text API, and we're going to be obviously accessing that API endpoint in SEO Gadget for Excel. So we've done a whole bunch of stuff so far with this extension, but its roots are in link analysis, and actually the whole thing was originally developed just to support Moz. So there's some minor differences between the Moz API calls and some of the other services, but they're relatively simple to understand, and actually we've got a lot of coverage of this in the how-to guide that's free to download with this extension. So I think if you've mastered the Moz API, all of the other APIs are easily a walk in the park, so let's get started and see what we can do. So today's query is equals Moz anchor text API. We have a series of different functions in SEO Gadget for Excel for Moz. So the anchor text API, the URL metrics API, which we covered earlier on in lesson 4. We've got the links API, which is show me the data, show me the actual links that are pointing to my resource, my website, and finally the top pages API, so tell me in order of the number of linking root domains which pages are most linked to on a website, on a root domain. But today is the anchor text API, and we're going to be using the toRange helper. So that's the helper that will write the data to a table, in this case the anchor table. Now we're looking at the domain that's in cell A1, which at the moment is google.com, and I want the data to be I want the data to be shown to me in terms of the number of phrases and the phrases themselves that are linking to that page. That could be phrase to domain, and it could be term as well. So either show me the terms that link to a page as in single words, or show me phrases that link to a page as in actual whole complete term. So by default I always use phrase to page. It makes a lot of sense. Sort that data by the number of domains linking to my page. I think that's the only sort setting currently in the anchor text API. And then finally get me 100 rows of data, and we're actually using what we call a chunk request in this particular API call. We do the same thing in the links API call as well. The brief summary of that is that we're asking for 100 rows of data. That's what it's like the count, the count of rows of data that we're asking for. But the size of the API call batch request is 100 rows of data. So we're actually asking for one API call to get 100 rows of data, essentially. We could break that down into 50, as in return responses of 50 rows of data per call, which means that we'd have 2 calls to get 100 rows of data. I hope that makes sense. Have a play with it. It becomes kind of easy after a couple of goes. So anyway, if I press return on that, it says OK, so it's got the data, but of course we haven't made a table. Just reminding myself that I need to make a table called anchor table, so I'm going to do that by using Control L and OK, and I'll just head to design, table name, and type in anchor table. So now we've got that table sorted. Let me just go back to the query and press return, and here we go. So we've actually got a bunch of Moz metrics here, as well as the actual term or phrase that people use to link to Google in this case. Interesting actually that people are linking to Google with the key phrase payday loan. But anyway, what I've gone and done is, if you work through the Moz API documentation for each of the 4 API endpoints, you'll find that each one of these little JSON response field names are matched to a description of what that data is. So I know that APU EU is a count of the number of external pages linking to Google, and the amount of internal MozRank passed by any internal links that might point back to Google with the key phrase Google, whether or not those links are image links, and so on and so forth. So super powerful, and it's always worth noting that we're setting variables when I'm using a cell reference of A1 back to actually in this function. I can change this to anything I like. So if I change that to SEOgadget.com, it updates pretty instantly actually with the new data. So don't forget that you can use this as part of a platform to prototype web applications and do super cool, interesting things that you can take back and show to your development team and prove to them that these things are possible, so they can get on with the task in hand, which is building it for you, maybe as a web application or as an internal piece of software. But anyway, on that note, thanks as always for listening. This was the Moz Anchor Text API endpoint, and you're playing with SEO Gadget for Excel.